How you doing, guys? Welcome to the Rubin Report. We have a bananas, bonkers, big blowout show for you this week. I have a little announcement I'm going to make at the end, but first, I want to introduce you to my two esteemed panelists, my two favorite ladies of the TYT network. I think you know who they are already. Anna Kasparian and Kim Horcher.
Yay.
In no order, other than that they were sitting in this order. First off, Kim, I just want to say you're wearing some armor, which is really,
I'm ready to fight. I'm ready for war.
There will be a war today, so we've got Kim in armor, and you're looking very professional,
and
almost
feminine.
a little feminine and British slightly. So
well, we planned this, so yeah.
All right, that's there you go. We planned it, people. All right, let's do this. So I wanted to talk a little bit about ISIS. We did a story last week with Ben and Jimmy about whether we in the media should be talking about ISIS when they do these propaganda videos with the beheadings and the burnings and all the other awful stuff. How much we should actually talk about it, because does that just strengthen them? Does that strengthen the recruiting, et cetera, et cetera? Well, now our Justice Department apparently is going to go after people who are promoting ISIS on social media. We've got a little more info for you. John Carlin, the Assistant Attorney General for National Security, said that officials could try to blunt ISIS's violent PR operation by trying propagandists as terrorists. He suggested the Justice Department could bring prosecutions under the law against providing material support to a terrorist organization. This may be the first time a U.S. official has ever said that people who assist ISIS with online media could face criminal prosecution. Okay. On its head, that sounds pretty decent, right? We don't need them to be using our tools like Facebook and YouTube and Twitter and things of that nature to promote this horrible stuff. On the other hand, we all talk for a living. We talk about these things, we report on these things, et cetera, et cetera. This seems like a slippery slope for someone like you, right?
Right. So I'm not a big fan of slippery slope arguments, but I think that when you start passing policies that criminalize and prosecute people for simply promoting a terrorist organization through commentary, it could be really dangerous. And if it's commentary through social media, under what these officials are asking for, hey, you know what? You're in big trouble. You could be prosecuted. I don't know if you're going to be tried for treason. I don't know exactly what the charges against you will be. But at the same time, people are allowed to have their opinions, even if they're opinions that you disagree with, even if they're opinions that you find extremely violent or destructive. So, for instance, we allow the KKK and white supremacists and neo-Nazis in the country to say whatever it is that they want to say because we protect their speech.
Right.
Now, actions are completely different. So if you're going out of your way to recruit people into ISIS, if you are actually doing something to physically help ISIS, I think it's a different story. But I think commentary and speech should be protected, even if it's something that you disagree with.
Yes, I'm 100% on board that. And there's a difference, of course, between free speech and calling for violence against people. But what do you think about the slippery slope thing? Because to me, it seems like, yes, we might report on it. I might think it's important that someone knows what they're up to, so I could tweet a link to an article. That doesn't mean I'm supporting them. If anything, I want to show people this horrible stuff. But then there's this slippery slope that the government could be like, are you what are you going for here?
Well, yeah, I mean, there's an important differentiation, which Anna just made. But at the same time, I'm not sure if I buy this. Like, it seems like it's more posturing than actually fixing a problem. And then there's also the idea that legislature usually moves way slower than technology, and then we have a problem because of that. This seems like it's a little bit in the opposite direction, like it's too much.
Yeah. Do you think that the timing of this is also weird? Like, I feel like we live in a time when nobody trusts the government to do the right thing anyway. The government's spying on us, all that stuff, NSA and all that. So the idea, like, there isn't enough trust, there isn't enough cachet in what the government's doing to be like, oh, we trust that you're going to deal with this thing properly.
The timing is interesting because we live in an age where the government gets to do things without real authorization, right? So we're seeing certain executive actions when it comes to foreign policy without congressional approval. And
like
I think
that war in Syria, for example.
Exactly. So that's problematic to say the least. But I think that the slippery slope is definitely possible in a situation like this, especially when in the past we've done stories about people who have been prosecuted for, let's say, posting rap lyrics on their Facebook page, right? Officials will make the argument that they're promoting gang violence, that this is dangerous, that they're actually going to carry out what they're saying in the lyrics. But it's speech, and you really need some hardcore evidence to prove that someone is going to carry out a violent act or that someone is inciting violence.
Yeah. So to that point, do you think we need to have like a real debate about what free speech is in this country and what freedom of expression is? Because I feel like with the Charlie Hebdo thing and everything else, we're not really talking about what really, most people I don't think understand the difference between what you say and then inciting actions, like things like that, yelling fire in a movie theater. Like I feel like we have to have like a real discussion about it, but we don't, and then as you're both saying, then the government can just go ahead and be like, oh, we're gonna do this little ISIS Twitter thing and who knows where we end up.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of it seems like it's reactionary to, just weird things going on. I also think people don't really understand the difference between freedom of speech and freedom of expression, which one of them protects you from, the authorities and the government, and the other one is just kind of being a dick, and one of them's legal, and one of them,
Yeah.
Right.
I think another really good point is the fact that a lot of Americans don't understand what it means to be protected by free speech. So, for instance, if a company decides to fire you over your speech, they have the ability to do that, right?
It is a private company,
it is a
and
private
they're allowed
company.
to do that.
Free speech protects you from any government action or, strike back if you say something that they don't like.
Right. All right, what do you think? Is this a slippery slope to the government controlling the internet even more than it already does, or are we actually going to help stop ISIS through means like this? Let us know in the comments right down below. I cannot believe this, but according to my paperwork here, there is pornography on the computer. Have you guys heard about that? Did you know about that?
I had no idea.
No, Kim, did you know about that?
I am shocked, sir.
It is quite shocking and appalling. Yes, but apparently it's true. And now Google is going to start cracking down on it, at least on their Blogger service. We've got a little more info for you. So this is the policy that they're going to institute now, and then I'll tell you about what they've been doing before this. Starting on March 23rd, 2015, you won't be able to publicly share images and video that are sexually explicit or show graphic nudity on Blogger. We'll still allow nudity if the content offers a substantial public benefit, for example, in artistic, educational, documentary, or scientific context. And then the changes that you're going to see to existing blogs. So this is if you have a Blogspot account. If your existing blog doesn't have any sexually explicit content, you won't notice any changes. If your existing blog does have sexually explicit or graphic nude images or video, your blog will be made private after March 23rd, 2015. No content will be deleted, but private content can only be seen by the owner or administrators of the blog and the people who the owner has shared the blog with. So just real quick, basically up until this point, Blogger did allow adult content, so you can get porn on Blogger right now. But all the person had to do, the administrator, was just mark it as adult. And then you just click check and you're good to go. So they're cracking down on this stuff a little bit. My general thing with this is that there's so much porn online. Google's a big company. Like, what are they, is this, like, what is the moral majority nonsense? Like, what are they going for here?
I think that making sure that someone checks off on a box indicating that they're 18 or older to watch the content, whatever, is fine.
And that's what they've been doing. So that's totally, yeah, everyone agrees.
That's okay, you guys can do that, right? But I just, like, it's the internet. I would say, like, 82% of the internet is pornography. That was a made-up statistic, obviously. I'm exaggerating and embellishing.
It's probably closer to 92.
It's probably. Yeah. But I think that I just get scared with this kind of stuff because the one thing that's great about the internet is how free it is, right? And so whenever I give lectures to my college students, I'll always tell them, like, if you want to work in new media, there's a huge upside. You don't have to worry about FCC regulations. You can cuss if you want to cuss. You can have sexually explicit content, in some of your videos if that's what you really want. But YouTube cracked down on that. Google cracks down on that. I mean, it's the same company, but you get what I mean. And it's like, we're adults. Let us make the content that we think is favorable to our audience and just stop policing us.
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty much how I see it. I mean, it seems to me that if people want porn, they're going to find it one way or another. So if Google just wants less clicks and they want to make it more difficult, so be it. People will just go elsewhere. Do you agree?
I want you all to know that Tumblr.com does not have these regulations. That's Tumbl, no E, R.com. You can blog whatever the fuck you want, literally.
So I'm sorry to interrupt you, but look, this is just my hypothesis, and it's just based on what I've noticed with YouTube and advertisers. people are less likely to advertise on YouTube videos if it's not family friendly.
Right.
So I'm wondering if, Google is having a harder time selling, AdSense ads or whatever on some of these blogs because, hey, you know what? It might have some sexually explicit content and it might be difficult to sell ads. I don't know.
Right.
I don't know what their business model is there. But it always comes down to the money, the advertisers who are big fucking pussies who can't handle some X-rated content. Grow a set of fucking balls. People watch porn. People have sex. People have vaginas and penises. And
vaginas and penises.
We're gonna be fine. I'm so tired of having to tiptoe and walk on eggshells because people have kids. If you have kids, be a fucking parent and keep an eye on what they're watching. If adults want to post explicit content, they should be able to do it on the internet. And advertisers, again, grow a set of balls, please.
Well, Anna just answered my next 6 questions on this,
Sorry.
actually. No, people ask often on YouTube, why do you guys do sex videos? Why do you guys do drug videos? I mean, a lot of them I just think are interesting. But to Anna's point, people click on them. Just no matter how much porn there is online, people still come to YouTube for people to talk about porn or sex or whatever it is. And then ironically, those videos do pay out the least.
Yes.
So a lot of times the things that are getting the most clicks in this little digital world we live in actually make us the least amount of money, which is a whole other topic altogether. Do you guys think we're gonna look back at like the last 10 years as the golden age of the internet? Because we just did this story a second ago about the government wanting to look at ISIS on Twitter, regulate some of that stuff. Now we're talking about it with Blogger and sex. Do you think that we're entering a second phase now?
I mean, if we don't get net neutrality, yeah, that was the golden age, and we're over it.
Yeah. I'm already hearing, though, that even this net neutrality thing, I heard this long interview with Mark Cuban yesterday, and he was even saying that the net neutrality that they're passing isn't even going to be as good as what we all thought, which is a whole other issue.
Yeah, I think that people are starting to realize that audiences are transferring from television to online, and once that happens, you're going to have governments and certain individuals wanting to regulate it and wanting to censor it, and I think it's problematic. But I think that it's going to be a lot more difficult to do that with the internet compared to what they did with television.
Yeah. So there you go. On a story like this, even if you think it's just silly because it's about porn, really it starts there, and then it's what can the regulations do down the road. That's why I think something like this is important. What do you think? Let us know in the comments right down below. All right, you guys all know Stephen Hawking, the brilliant and renowned physicist. The movie, The Theory of Everything, just came out about his life. He had some interesting things to say about sort of the future of humanity and sort of how we've evolved and how we may continue to evolve. We've got an interesting quote from him right here. The human failing I would most like to correct is aggression. It may have had survival advantage in caveman days to get more food, territory, or a partner with whom to reproduce, but now it threatens to destroy us all. A major nuclear war could be the end of civilization and possibly the end of the human race. The quality I would most like to magnify is empathy. It brings us together in a peaceful, loving state. And I thought this was kind of interesting because it's nothing new here. Yeah, we should be better to ourselves and to our neighbors and things like that. But sometimes when something comes from somebody as bright as a Stephen Hawking, perhaps, Kim, we should pay a little more attention to it?
Dr. Hawking has also expressed his concerns over AI becoming too rampant and being able to control the, humans in general, I guess, or society in a way. And it's on both sides of the spectrum in that way. I don't really agree with him on the AI thing, but I do pretty much agree with him on this. We're going to kill each other.
Yeah. Do you think the robots are going to kill us, or we're going to kill each other first?
I'm actually more concerned about the aggression that he's talking about in his recent comments, because as someone who's on the internet for my career,
here we go again.
You do see a lot of that. There's a lack of empathy that I've never experienced before in my life. Maybe I was naive, but you do stories about domestic violence, and people will totally give others a pass for beating the shit out of one another.
Yeah.
And I don't really know when that was okay or when people thought it was acceptable, but I'll give you a quick example. We did a story about Afro Man, who is a rapper, literally hitting another woman in the face because she had the audacity to get up on stage and dance and have a good time at his show. Mm-hmm. She's a fan of his, right? And so we put that video up online. Of course, we condemned his actions. And a huge population of people were like, well, he was justified. He was sexually harassed by this. Are you fucking kidding me right now?
Yeah.
He hit a fan in the face for having a good time at his show. So like that aggression, that's just one specific example. That aggression is becoming more and more prevalent, if you ask me, and it's problematic.
Do you think there's something about the online thing that's making it happen? Like, so for example, back in the day, if you had to hunt for your food, you could get out a certain amount of aggression in a normal way. Or guys that play football, you're getting out a certain amount of physical aggression. Where now everyone's just sitting behind their computer all day, so your aggression comes out in ways, in something like that, where it's so clear like what's right and wrong, yet you still find yourself expressing aggression because maybe you're not getting it out in a very human way?
People forget what it's like when they're not face to face with someone. So like you don't realize there's a person on the other end of this who's reading this, who has feelings and thoughts and value. And you know, when I'm face to face with you, like there's no way I'd be like, oh, you know, but maybe if I
But you would say that on Twitter.
No, because
Yeah.
no. But like that's a terrible example actually. But you know, you forget that level of humanity and empathy when you're not next to a human. And I think that's something we haven't evolved with yet as technology starts to evolve more and more.
Yeah.
I think Kim makes a good point, but I think another part of it is that people are frustrated right now. You know, people have more student loan debt than ever before. It's really hard for young people to find jobs. And so when things aren't going the right way in your life, you're looking for a scapegoat.
Yeah.
And so I understand that aspect of it as well. But yeah, I mean, if we had a little more empathy and we understood the perceptions of other people, I think that we would live in a much better society.
Yeah, so why don't our governmental leaders talk about that? Nobody really ever, Obama did it a little bit originally, you know, in 2008 when he came in and he gave that big speech in Egypt about understanding different people. But we really don't do that anymore, right?
Not at all.
Even from Obama all the way down, is there anyone that really talks about sort of understanding your neighbor and all of that? Why don't we do that?
Well, the government doesn't lead by example at all. In
Yeah.
fact, I mean, we demonize people that are different from us on a regular basis. And so if you have leadership spreading those types of ideas, of course it's going to seep into the general population. When you treat all Muslims as if they're all extremists, you know, as a government, you are sending a message to your people, to citizens, and I think that that's dangerous.
Yeah. All right, people, we're going to do a little test here. Can you all be empathetic, pleasant, lovely, and wonderful in the comments right down below? I don't want to hear any shit about these two. A little on me if you want to do it, but that's it. All right, right there, you know where it is. Subscribe, comment, blah, blah, blah. Researchers at the University of Michigan have found out something that I'm pretty sure I knew all along. Processed foods can often be just as addicting as hard alcohol and drugs. The reason I think I know this is because anytime I have one Dorito, I have that immediate urge to eat 1,000 more. And if I'm on a plane and they give me just like a little bag of something, I want 8 more bags. Like that's actually a real thing, and I don't think I'm the only one that that's happening to. We've got a little more info on the study. The authors of the study wanted to discover what foods were most likely to lead to food addiction. They found that highly processed foods were more likely to have the same effect on the brain as hard drugs compared to non-processed foods like wheat, fish, and other healthy foods. Just like other addicts don't choose to become addicted to heroin or cocaine, obese people don't choose to be fat. So I think this is really interesting, and it's exactly what I was just saying before. So let's just start on that anecdotal part. Do you guys find that too, that there are certain foods, processed foods, that you have one, I mean, people say that about potato chips all the time, versus if you were having a bowl of rice, let's say, and some chicken, you eat till you're satiated, and then you're not suddenly like, I need more chicken and rice.
Yeah, I mean, that's why I don't have Nutella at home. If I have like 1 spoon of Nutella, that's it. But I eat it with a spoon. So it's just,
that's the only way.
That is the only way, right? Like, why would you spread it on bread? Doesn't make any sense.
Well, you could just dip
taint
your
it.
whole
You
mouth
taint it.
into the thing.
Right. Sometimes I just put it in a big bowl and I make it clean. But I think that this has an evolutionary advantage, but unfortunately we live in a completely different time where the advantage no longer exists, right? So when we were hunter-gatherers, like, we of course want fattier foods, right? Because we need the fattier foods to survive. But now food is plentiful, you know, and so we still want the same things, but there's an abundance of it, and we eat too much of it, and then of course we're not as physically active as we were ages ago, so we get fat. That's the way it works.
Right, and by the way, with all this processed stuff, there's plenty of evidence that they literally are putting in flavors that they make up because they make our taste buds go nuts so that you just want more of them, right?
Well, I feel that way about sugar. I'm not sure if that's necessarily like the processed food thing, but there's sugar in everything. You'd be shocked, like things that are supposedly like healthy Mother's Nature's bounty smoothies and yogurts. It's like, it's full of sugar.
It's so full of sugar.
And I love it.
Yeah, I mean, for me, they specifically target food that tastes like Latino, so I can't get enough of it. I'm just kidding.
Well,
Tastes like Latino. I think we're going to have a GIF or a meme or something made on that one. who do we blame for this? Like, is this our fault, or do we blame the corporations? Do we blame the government that told us to eat this stuff? Do we blame McDonald's? Do we blame ourselves for not being educated enough?
I don't know if there's anyone you can blame other than the companies that are purposely making their food as addictive as possible.
Yeah.
I know it's really difficult to control yourself when you want to eat the fatty food, but I think the best way to combat what's happening in the country is education, right? So passing regulations that ban certain sizes of sodas or tax certain foods, it's like putting a Band-Aid on a larger problem. A lot of people don't have access to healthy food, or a lot of people are simply uneducated on what is and isn't healthy. So someone might see a granola bar and be like, yeah, duh, it's granola. Of course this is going to be healthy. But the reality is granola is like one of the least healthy things that you can eat.
And then they wrap it up in sugar and all that stuff. By the way, we can't do something on sugar without me mentioning my pet peeve #1, which is that in our Coke, in our Coca-Cola, we don't have sugar in America.
Oh,
we have high fructose corn syrup because corn is cheaper to make sweet than sugar. So you have to get a Mexican Coke in America to actually get sugar in your Coke. That is completely bonkers.
Back to the Latino thing,
but
right,
yeah,
Anna?
I don't know what
anyway.
I'm not sure where she's going. Do you think we're going to have rehab for these people soon? I mean, eventually, really, like eventually, it's going to become looked at like an addiction, right? If that's what these studies
to your
are
point, I think in a lot of ways we're as good as our choices. In what is subsidized, what is easily accessible, what is the most attractive looking thing, and it's going to be maybe something that's not good for you.
Yeah, I think we got Anna's answer to this already, but my final thought on this is, what food is your guilty pleasure? But I guess, well, now is it some sort of Latino Nutella or?
All right.
Churros.
For me, I don't know. My guilty pleasure is like any type of chocolate cake that's warm and gooey with like ice cream. So sugar, I love sugar.
I can confirm that's true because you've brought that type of thing to my house many times. Kim?
I like donuts.
Yes, I like donuts too.
I know, freaking donuts, man. They bring us donuts around here on Wednesdays, and it's like, I can't stop. I know I shouldn't, and I can't. But actually, my healthy addiction, this one's an actual healthy addiction. Trader Joe's has these mesquite almonds, and they're almonds. Almonds are good. I think mesquite's pretty good.
I like
almonds. So I think I'm doing all right. Anyway, I like almonds. Do you love Latinos? Do you love sugar?
What, you said foot. That was interesting. That was
I don't know where I was going. That was odd. That was odd. Anyway, what gets you off? Let us know in the comments right down below.
No.
What is the deadliest drug in America? Yeah, it's the one that is legal in all 50 states. Of course, it is alcohol. A really interesting new study just came out. We've got the link to the study right down below because it is really expansive, and we've only got a couple minutes here on the YouTube, so you can check that out if you want more info. All right, so let's give you some more info on the study. The authors of the study assessed the comparative risk of death that accompanies consuming everything from weed to meth, and found that weed is even safer than they previously believed. Researchers drew these conclusions based on the margin of exposure, which measures the likelihood of an average user accidentally ingesting a toxic dose. The lower the ratio, the smaller the margin for error, and the easier it is to consume a harmful dose. Okay, now we've got a graph for you, and I'll lay out what's going on here. As you can see in the chart, weed's average margin for error, the red bar, is much higher than that of other drugs, meaning the likelihood of consuming a harmful dose is lower. You pretty much can't do it with weed. The margin for error for alcohol, meanwhile, is very low, reflecting a much higher risk of harmful consumption. We've got a little more info for you. Take a look at this graph.
Whoa.
The Government Centers for Disease Control and Prevention study of drug mortality rates, which tallies confirmed causes of death, puts a fine point on how obviously backwards these drug laws have become. And here's where you can see that very, very clearly. What are people dying of? Tons and tons of people dying from tobacco, tons of people dying from alcohol. Look at that number on the right. Anna, what do you make of that? 0 on the marijuana.
I'm glad that more studies are coming out proving that there is no way that you're going to die from smoking marijuana. You're not going to overdose from smoking marijuana. But at the same time, I do worry a little bit about some of the way that these stories are covered, because I think it is irresponsible to say that marijuana is completely harmless. You're not going to die. It's not going to ruin your life, right? But there are people that become dependent, and it does have some negative impacts on their lives, on their productivity. And so I want to see more of those studies as well. But I think that this is something that we all pretty much already knew.
Right.
And I'm glad that there's more scientific evidence to kind of prove the naysayers wrong. It's ridiculous that there are some people in the country, thousands in fact, that are serving life sentences for simply simple possession of marijuana. We need to change our laws regarding that just based on evidence like this.
Right. So I give Obama a lot of shit, but he has done an actually pretty decent job on marijuana laws. Pretty much, the feds actually still can come in and close dispensaries here, even in California, where it's medicinally legal. Marijuana, you don't smoke marijuana, right?
I've only had pot once, and it was on accident, and it was a lot. So
did you eat it? Was it edible?
So, okay, I was at somebody who was a host on this network's party, and there were these brownies, and I thought they were regular brownies. So I had 4, and
oh my gosh.
Shit got weird after that. So
I mean, you must have been like tripping balls.
No, that's not funny.
That's too much.
No, I know.
That's not funny. I remember taking an edible, and I literally thought I was gonna die, but I had to keep reminding myself it's just marijuana. It's just marijuana.
I just felt kind of weird. I didn't.
So even that, I think, is the point, and even your part with edibles for yourself, that you did it, right? And did you want marijuana the next day?
No, I'm done. Like, I
so
don't need
doesn't
marijuana.
that prove why it's not that dangerous?
Well, Anna's right. It's not completely harmless. Like, I did feel like I shouldn't drive after this.
Yeah.
But, you know, I don't think I was in danger of dying. I don't feel like I'm in danger of being addicted.
Right.
Of it changing my life in that way.
Yeah. Do you think the weed thing's already done? Like, to me, it's happening as quickly as gay marriage. Once gay marriage really became an issue, say, like 4 or 5 years ago, I know it took a long time to get to that point, but once it really became part of the national discussion, it's happened pretty quick. I mean, freaking Alabama has it, right? Texas, there's some legal stuff going on down there.
Right.
So I feel like weed is just going to follow that path,
Absolutely.
right?
I mean, there's already a lot of momentum for legalizing marijuana for recreational use. Right now, there are 10 states that are considering it for recreational use. That means that you're not using it because you have cataracts. You're using it because you want to get the munchies and sit on the couch and watch TV, and the government acknowledges that, and they're cool with it, which is great. But, I mean, think about this. Washington, Colorado, now Alaska, D.C., Oregon. These are all places in the U.S. where you can purchase and consume marijuana for recreational use, and I think that's a good sign.
Yeah. Do the weed people need lobbyists? Like, to me, it seems like more. I think they're getting some lobbyists now, and we've already seen that in Colorado, the tax revenue is great. So it's, to me, this is something that Republicans should be for, because if they really are for small government, you wouldn't care what someone smokes in their bedroom, right? And you'd be finding another way to get taxes.
I think a lot of this is just misinformation, like the pervasive thoughts that, oh, it's scary, it's bad, stay away from it, it's awful, you know, but I think this is all based on a very old propaganda campaign. So, you know, maybe we do need some lobbyists for this cause.
Yeah. So then actually, are we talking about this in reverse? Should we really be talking about how bad booze is? Like, I'm not saying we should be going for prohibition again, but we don't really talk about that at all. Those deaths are through the roof, drunk driving, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, I think that we have a problem with tobacco deaths and alcohol deaths. Both substances are completely legal in the country. Of course, they're regulated to some degree, but you know, I think that there should be more education campaigns out there that help those who are addicted to both of those substances, because that's the big issue. Yeah. That's the real problem here.
All right, there you go. I would be for education, not regulation. What do you think? Let us know in the comments right down below. People absolutely hate Congress. How much do they hate them? They have like a negative 642 approval rating, which is almost impossible. But it turns out that a new study is proving that the women in Congress, are getting a lot more done than the men. Surprise, surprise. Let's look at some info. Quorum, which is a startup that analyzes congressional relationships and policymaking, found that over the past 7 years, female legislators have been more likely to work with the female members of the opposite party and more likely to see their bills passed compared to their male counterparts. I'm not surprised. A little more for you. Okay, so these are average bills co-sponsored with each senator of the same gender. So male senators, on average, got about 4 of these bills out. Female senators got 6. All right, a little bit more. Also keeping in mind that there are way less women in the Senate than there are men. Men introduced, on average, about 70 bills. Women introduced 96. That's a pretty significant difference. Men got, on average, about 3 bills out of committee, so that means it went the next step to becoming a law, or at least getting to the president's desk. Women got almost 5. And men got, on average, about 1.5 bills enacted, and women got 2.3. So by every estimation, if you just look at the empirical evidence, women are getting more done in Congress. You know, there's a causality thing, I think, is what you're going to first tell me here, right?
No.
No, you're not going to tell me.
You know, whenever I see a study like this, I have like questions about standard deviation and sample size. I'm wondering if this is maybe that there's so much fewer female congressional representatives that this, that the experiment doesn't make sense based on that.
Right. So, okay, so we can't totally break down all the science of it, but there's a general theme here that women seem, for one reason or another, to be getting more done, right?
I think it's an interesting hypothesis, and I don't know, for some reason, this study did raise some red flags for me, but even if everything in that study is true, I still don't think the results from the women are that impressive, right? Which kind of speaks to how low our standards are for Congress.
Right.
And the reason why there's a lack of bipartisanship isn't because people are inherently bad and they're unwilling to work with one another. It's because they have corporate interests at play. They have people funding their campaigns. And so even if they genuinely feel strongly about an issue, they're not going to be principled about it because they got to think about re-election and funding their campaigns.
Right, so I get that. I'm totally on board that everyone is bought and sold and that's why Congress doesn't get anything done and all that stuff. But do you guys think that maybe there is something about the female mind, just because men and women have different thought processes, right? That maybe is allowing them, despite all the corporate interests, to still maybe get some more done. Like that, I mean, that's just what the numbers are saying.
There are some stereotypes that women are more empathetic than men, so that could probably factor into them being willing to cross party lines and work with others. So yeah, I mean, there are things about men and women that are inherently different. There's no question about that. Whether or not those differences play a role in the study, I think, is yet to be proven. So I'd like to see more, research into this, and we'll figure it out. But I think you start getting into dangerous territory when you say women in Congress are better than men in Congress, or men in Congress are better than women in Congress. I just think that
and we don't know what any of those bills were, so we may be against all of the bills that the women were for, probably not. But you really have no idea. Are you guys more inclined to vote for women in general? If everything else is equal, would you be more inclined to vote for a woman if you didn't particularly care about either candidate either way?
If everything is equal. Because I've never
we'll
seen
start there. If everything was equal, which pretty much never happens.
I've never seen that happen once.
Yeah.
So am I just more likely to choose a woman over a man?
If you didn't particularly have a dog in the fight,
then I'm not voting.
Then you wouldn't vote.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, that's actually a really good point. If you have two candidates that are basically the same, why vote? You're going to get the same result. But no, I don't think that I'm more inclined to vote for a woman as opposed to a man. I think that it really just boils down to the issues. But if, let's say, all the candidates are exactly the same and the only thing I'm voting on is a man versus a woman, I think right now, considering how underrepresented women are in Congress, sure, I guess I'd vote for the woman.
Right. So in and of itself, you're not going to necessarily vote for Hillary.
Oh, hell no. I'm
little too corporate, little too much Goldman Sachs money.
I'm definitely 100%
I'm not choosing her
not
because she's a woman.
Right, but I'm guessing you both might vote for Elizabeth Warren, but you would say that's because of policy, not because of gender.
It's always policy. That has to be number one. You can't just be like, I only want women in Congress, because you don't. Well, Sarah Palin's a woman.
And she was crazy.
Sarah Palin's a woman. Do you agree? Let us know in the comments right down below. The National Sleep Foundation recommends that adults aged 18 to 64 get between 7 and 9 hours sleep per night. I'm probably right in the middle of that, right around 8. I need my sleep. I'm enjoying a little siesta these days too, like 12 minutes. I love it. Anyway, a new infographic has come out showing what successful people from right now to the past, how much sleep they got. So let's take a look. So there's some really interesting stuff here. Bill Gates averages 7 hours of sleep, which is right sort of at the front end of what the Sleep Foundation is recommending. Billionaire Donald Trump, Anna, I know you love Donald Trump, am I right?
Totally, he's the
you
best.
love Donald Trump. He gets about 3 to 4 hours of
that
sleep.
makes sense.
He then spends the rest of his day arguing with eggs on Twitter. Margaret Thatcher got only 4 hours of sleep per day. This one I think is really interesting. Nikola Tesla, who was the grandfather of electricity, slept for only 2 hours each night. Winston Churchill, he did 4 hours, and then he'd do the 90-minute nap. I want to talk about naps in a second. And interestingly, and not surprisingly, politicians are the group of people who get the most with more than 9 hours of sleep each night. We know they're not working and they're pretty much asleep at the job, so I don't know if that counts in that. So let's just start with the personal angle. Like, how important is sleep to you guys, Kim?
I have problems getting to sleep. Like, I would like to sleep more, but I'm definitely a night person, and I worry at night, and I can't sleep and wake up early for the Rubin Report tapings. But it is important. Like, I feel a lot better. My mind moves better. I look better.
Yeah, that's actually what I'm more concerned about, to be honest with you. I feel like I function fine on 4 to 5 hours of sleep. I average between 5 and 6, and when I sleep more than that, I'm actually groggy the entire day. So all of these studies frustrate me a little bit because everyone's different.
Yeah.
And so I don't like it when people tell me, oh, you're only getting 6 hours of sleep. It's actually destroying your cognitive abilities. No, what destroys my cognitive ability is when I've slept 8 hours and then I wake up and I just want to go back to sleep.
Right, and
everyone's different.
To your point, I mean, that graphic shows that plenty of highly productive people are getting very little sleep.
Although, among those who don't get enough sleep, you have Margaret Thatcher and Donald Trump. I don't know if that really...
I was just pulling. You know, we can throw the graphic back up for just a sec, and we'll just keep talking so people can see who else is on there.
I like the Tesla fact right there. 2 hours, that sounds really...
You have to remember,
right, I mean, think about the shit that he was getting done.
Tesla had some serious problems psychologically as well.
Yeah.
Remember that time? I mean, he's a brilliant man, undoubtedly, but he did have his issues.
By the way, so Barack Obama gets 6 hours, which is a little on the low side. Yeah, go ahead.
I just have to make a point about Berlusconi. The reason why Berlusconi only got 2 to 4 hours of sleep is because he was fucking prostitutes.
Yeah, he's with prostitutes. Don't let you sleep. They charge when you're sleeping. What do you guys make of the? What do you make of the? If you're with the prostitute, you know what I mean. Like if you're charging 2 hours.
No, I don't know what you mean.
I'm just saying. Generally, prostitutes they charge you for the whole time. So if you're going to sleep through it. You know what I mean?
They just want you to get your value.
You got it right. Well,
Berlusconi was specifically known for his bunga parties, which I loved covering him. He was great.
What do you guys make of the politicians? They get a lot of sleep. They don't work. They get a lot of sleep. They pass laws so that they pay less tax. Like what? Come on.
I feel like I chose the wrong career. I love what I'm doing, but I feel like I would live high off the hog if I was a politician.
So you should have become like
miserable, by the way. I don't really want to do that.
Right, like a mid-level congressional somebody. Yeah. Not everybody would know about you, but you could sleep a lot.
Yesterday, I was like toying with the idea of serving on the Los Angeles City Council. I'm like, it sounds like it'd be fun.
Do it,
right?
Yeah. Yeah, well, Anna, if I know one thing about Anna, it's not like she has a lot of controversial things she said that could possibly derail her campaign, but who knows? Anyway, how much sleep do you guys get? How important is sleep in your day-to-day operation? Let us know in the comments right down below. Which YouTuber makes the most amount of money? Now, think about it for just a second. I know you're all thinking me, but no, not me. And I know the next thought is PewDiePie, right? Everyone knows PewDiePie is huge. He's playing video games and making...
PewDiePie, get it right.
Pewdie?
As in pew pew.
The point is, it's not him either. Yeah, you know who it is? It is a woman, an anonymous woman, up until now at least, by the name of DC Toy Collector. What does she do on the YouTube? She unboxes children's Disney toys. That's it. Yeah, let's take a look.
Hey guys, Disney Collector here, and today we're gonna have some fun with sparkling Play-Doh and Disney Princess. Since we have here 6 different colors, we're gonna be making 6 different sparkling dresses. 1 for each of this princess. First one to get a sparkling dress is gonna be Belle. So let's remove the glitter glider dress. Leave it aside. And start working on the new dress.
All right, so that is literally all she does. She has dozens and dozens of videos unboxing Disney toys. She has a sort of angelic voice, I suppose. Guess how much she's making on YouTube a year? $5 million, which is just above what you're pulling.
Oh,
right?
yeah, totally.
Just teeny, right above Nerd Alert, just right
I'm not
there.
even going to lie.
Not even going to lie. Yeah, so she's making an incredible amount of money. Now, what I thought was interesting, that's just interesting in and of itself, but now it has come out that she actually is a porn star. We've got an image of her. Her name is Sandy Summers, and she went through incredible lengths to not have her real identity revealed because obviously she's reviewing these toys that are children's toys, so we assume that it's a lot of children that are watching the videos. She also disables the comments on her videos, by the way, which I'm guessing she does intentionally so that people that might want to be just saying awful, dirty, perverted shit, if kids are going to the videos, they don't have to see that stuff. So she's really done every precaution that she could possibly do to keep this thing on the up and up. But she got outed, and they figured it out because of a scar and some other stuff. Who cares is what I would first, we can talk about the YouTube angle first, but who cares? Someone's in the sex work business. they're also making videos on YouTube. Who cares?
We love demonizing people who are in the sex work industry, who have ever posed nude in their lives, anyone who's been a victim of revenge porn.
Yeah.
We love victimizing them, and it's ridiculous. And so I don't care, but I know that there are probably a lot of mothers out there who watch these videos who care. So I think it makes sense that she's making a lot of money. These unboxing videos are genius, and I'm angry at myself for not thinking about it first.
So can you explain a little bit about why you think they're genius? Because I watched a couple of them in preparation for this, and they're so idiotic. But there is something, as I said, angelic about her voice. There's something pleasant. But what do you think is genius about it?
So it seems ridiculous to you because you're not interested in the product. But for people who are considering purchasing the product, watching these videos give you a better sense of what you're going to get. Okay, are you going to get your money's worth? So some people do this with technology. Let's say they buy a new phone and then they unbox it and they show you all the different gadgets that it comes with, and it just makes sense to me because you want to know what you're paying for. A lot of people shop online. So I mean, I like to buy clothing online, and I would love it if some of the retailers that I buy from put out some videos like unboxing it so I know what I'm going to expect when I get it in the mail.
Right. So just so you know, the video had 209 million views. 209 million views watching a girl unbox Disney toys. I get all of Anna's reasons there, but what do you make of the unboxing thing?
So I've watched her channel before you told me to watch it.
Yeah.
And I was interested in who she was too. She made it kind of a mystique, like, who is this lady? Is this other channel her husband? Blah, blah, blah. I think it's cool. I mean, when you gave me the story, I didn't think the story was, you know, oh, she used to be a porn star. I thought the story was, look at this amazing, look how well this is doing. And, you know, I think it's popular because it's hitting a few different points. Like, one, there's the unboxing thing where you see something new and you get that, like, that hits pleasure centers. And then there's also playing with toys, which is also fun. I like Disney. I have a childlike sense of wonder. Why have I not done this?
That was the most honest thing I've ever heard you say. I have a childlike sense of wonder. I do too, Kim. But all right, so I'm with you on all that. But do you think there's a weird danger in fetishizing stuff? You know what I mean? Just this idea. I get it for the clothes thing. It kind of makes sense because if there was a girl who you trusted and she was like, and this feels right and we have similar bodies. But just this idea of with all the phones and everything, that it's just all about stuff. Like we're putting so much
welcome
emphasis
to
on
America.
stuff.
I mean, that's capitalism. We're obsessed with stuff. I'm obsessed with stuff. I'm a female addicted to retail. It is what it is. So is it dangerous? I guess, yeah, especially considering credit card debt and all that. But overall, I'm 100% giving her a pass. Do you, boo? I'm so happy she's making this kind of money, and I'm angry at myself for not being smart enough to think about it.
Right.
Well, here's the deal. Like, this is a very simple concept. Here's a toy. Look at the toy. Wow, it's a toy. When you look at more, you know, complicated topics like existential issues, deep philosophical worries, it's harder to, one, tag and title that. Two, get people who are interested in this abstract concept. It's a toy. There's the toy. Easy.
Right. So it's sort of marketing 101. All right, well, I'm going to end this with, I'm going to put you guys both on the spot. So I'm glad we didn't focus on the porn aspect of this because I think it really is irrelevant, whatever she does in her personal life. I really don't think it matters. Do you guys ever fear that something you've done in your past could affect your future? Because this thing could come back to haunt her now.
I am overly cautious when it comes to certain things. So I've obviously said controversial things on the show, and I take full ownership of them. And when I'm wrong, I'll take ownership of that as well. In terms of like nude pictures or videos, I have a really strict policy against ever taking or doing any of them. So I have nothing to worry about. I'm fine.
The woman with nothing to fear, Kim.
I haven't taken any like naughty pictures either, at least. I mean, yeah, and I haven't done it. And
You're not on trial here. That got...
All I'm saying is you can't trace it to me, so don't even try.
All right, on that note, I want to thank Anna and Kim.